Hi everyone, you're very welcome to the online launch of Channel Issue 7. We're really proud of this issue and we can't wait to share some of the work in it with you tonight. Before we get started, I'd just like to say a huge thank you to all the contributors who shared reasons of their work with us to make up tonight's launch, and to everyone whose work features in Issue 7. It's been a pleasure working with every one of you, and it's a privilege to put your work out into the world. I'd also like to thank our printers at City Print Co for the beautiful work they've done on this issue, our funders at the Arts Council, our patrons and subscribers, and everyone who supports our work, including all of you who are watching tonight. We're really grateful to you for tuning in and hearing what all the wonderful writers we've been working with have to share with you. Our final special thanks goes out to our Issue 7 cover artist, who happens to also be our own 2022 publishing intern, Dorje, for all the work he's put into Channel over the past year, and for lending some of his beautiful photography to this issue's cover. I'll hand you over to Dorje now, who'll tell you a bit more about his work.
Thanks, Cassia. Hello, my name's Dorje I'm a visual artist, photographer, and filmmaker. This is Stella. We're currently based in Berlin, and since February I have been the publishing intern with Channel. And as this is my last issue working with the guys, they very kindly invited me to also provide the cover art for this issue, which I'd like to speak a little bit about now. So the two images we decided to use, one's by my mum, one's by me, and they're from a large body of work called Dream the End, created between 2016 and 2018 throughout Mum's illness and death from lung cancer. And the work kind of takes the form of a duet between us, as it's comprised of images I made during that time and subsequent to Mum's death, alongside a large body of work of Mum's images from an archive that I discovered after she died, kind of charting the person I didn't know, I never knew, the young woman that I'd never met. So it feels really special to have this pair of images on the cover of the magazine that's been so good to me over the last year, as foremost amongst the many things that Mum gifted me. Foremost amongst them was an obsessive love of literature, of reading and writing, and that's something that's formed the backbone to my practice since I started making pictures 12 years ago. So thank you to Elizabeth and to Cassia for that opportunity, and for all the contributors for the beautiful work that my images can sit beside. Dream the End is it's a large body of work that seeks to tell our story, me and Mum's story, our relationship, the end of our relationship, the intensity of our relationship, but also in broader terms speak of obsession, love, loss, grief, how little we know of each other, and how often that realization comes too late. So once again, thanks to the guys for the opportunity, and it feels really special to have these images round out my year working with the magazine. I was also invited to contribute a small editorial to this issue, summarizing my time working with the magazine. So to finish out, I'd just like to read a small excerpt from that attempts to go some way towards describing how I feel about Channel and how much this year has meant and how much it's provided for me. So, as the water rises and the trees fall, and we give ever more credence and control to machinic thought and the rudderless logic of the market, if there's to be any form of pushback to the suicidal nihilism of atomized individualism, it can only begin with the feeling of not being alone that music, poetry, prose, pictures, and paintings can sometimes provide. In Heroes, the great Bifo Baradi continually asserts that he sees no readily apparent solutions to the world's current set of problems, but when pushed, by himself in the book's final chapter, the closest he comes to assert the simple concept of local, small-scale community building centered around writing, reading, and the sharing of art and knowledge. Making things together, making things that speak of our universal struggle, our shared wonder, our shared disbelief, our shared despair. to illuminate and grasp with some understanding within the catastrophe. This is what Channel does, what it's provided for me, and what I sincerely feel it provides for its readers and contributors. It's been an honour to be involved in some small way. So thanks to Liz and Cass and all the readers and all the writers for their vital work. So thank you all. And thank you, Elizabeth, and thank you, Cassia. And I'd like to hand you over to Liz now to take on the rest of the evening's proceedings. Well, thanks again, and I hope you enjoy everything. Bye-bye.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the online launch of Issue 7. This launch will feature pre-recorded readings from our Issue 7 contributors alongside photo and video content of the natural worlds that they are writing from. You can find the reader lineup with timestamps in the description box below, where you'll also find links to buy Issue 7 online, find out about our stockists within Ireland if you'd like to buy Issue 7 in person, or learn how to submit to Issue 8. The work within Issue 7 really brilliantly balances the sense of precarity that, for better or for worse, is always present within our mortal lives, with the same always present profound expressions of pleasure, joy, and love. We're so delighted to get to share some of that work with you tonight, and there's really no better way to get started than to share some of the photographs from Dorje de Burgh's series Dream of the End, which, as he introduced himself, explores the relationship between himself and his mother as it was even before his birth, after her passing, and as it now stands, a ongoing intermingling of timelines and loving exchange. Okay, that's it for me for tonight. Thanks again for being with us, and I hope you enjoy the event.
Hello everyone, I'm Barbara Hickson and I'm joining you from Lancaster in the northwest of England. I'd like to read two poems. The first is Going to Ground, the poem which appears in this issue of Channel. And thank you Elizabeth, Cassia and Dorje for accepting it. The second poem is Compass, which is from my pamphlet, A Kind of Silence, published by Maytree Press last year. I hope you enjoy them.
Going to ground. Perhaps we're foxes digging our names in the earth. When night comes, we'll slip as mist into trees, bark slant secrets to the moon. By day, I'll walk beside you, scenting out similarities, a shared territory. Both of us will feel the nearness of dusk, the solace of rain on the air. Compass. Can you smell the green heat? Feel bracken's breath rising? Hear flies drowsing among fronds? This tangled path is leading you, losing you, among tortoiseshells, ringlets, grayling, ragwort, striped and stripped by caterpillars. Is it how you remember? Do you know this clearing scabbed by limestone, its glints and grikes? This heart's tongue fern, twayblade, helleborine, wiry hawthorn lodged in cracks. Follow into woodland cloth, pick past boulders upholstered in moss, stacks of fractured cast. Steady yourself against silver birch. Where are the birds? This silence, only wind hushing the trees. So many paths, root-knuckled, unravelling, such dark openings in the earth.
Hi, my name is Selina Eagney. I'm from Galway. I had hoped to film outside today, but it is raining here as usual, so I can't. I just wanted to thank Cassia, Elizabeth and Dorje for all their hard work and for selecting my essay, Adventures in Wanderlands, which I'm going to read an extract from now. Tut tut, child, said the Duchess. Everything's got a moral, if only you can find it. Chapter 9, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. Menlo Castle is the last stop on my walk. Built in 1569, it was inhabited by multiple generations of the prominent Blake family until it was ravaged by fire early in the 20th century. A restored stone arch at the head of a laneway marks the impressive former entrance, its low window frames and doorways providing an opportunity to experience macropsia by proxy. The small structures are visible reminders of how much we've grown, physically at least, in the intervening years. Vault the gate at the end of the lane, up and over into hypergreen fields edged by trees, and suddenly it emerges out of the ground, an imposing edifice of brick and ivy. The City Council has recently undertaken restoration works on the site, and most of the vines that hug the exterior for decades are gone, making it easier to see the doorways, the window frames, the crenellations and chimneys that were once part of a grand manor, but now stand as the last custodians of a complicated history. The castle had persisted in various forms through bankruptcies, famines and wars, until fire broke out in the summer of 1910, trapping the heiress Eleanor Blake and 2 servant girls inside. Eleanor perished in the blaze, while the 2 young women escaped to the roof. Both jumped, only one survived. Circling the castle's remains over 100 years later, the tragedy of its past merges with the tranquility of its location, resulting in a peculiar sensation of discomfort and contentment, swirling together like eddies in the river that flows blithely by.
We may not have alpine heights to scale, but we have, besides some mountains, many a pleasant hill. Climbing one today, half 15 feet, I came to a saddle in the ridge. There, bedded in green grass, were a pair of spindle trees, their finely sawed lanceolate leaves already turning to crimson and to bronze. Each tree was hung all over like an old-fashioned chandelier, with seed vessels that next month will be so fine a hue of rose, yet we proceed to plant the evergreen euonymus, the silver-margined, the variegated, the golden broadleaf, and leave to the wilds our indigenous with its vivid pink fruits. We delight in its exotic relative, a branch of the bittersweets, the burning bush with its corky winged bark that might have served for the sandals of Mercury. The white, Hard-grained wood is good for spindles and butcher skewers, and is made up into those little bundles of slender rods, which watchmakers sharpen and use to clean the settings in which the wheels of our watches revolve. Greetings from the woods of Oslo, Norway. The landscape is perhaps a little different from the Irish one described in this poem, and its source text, KCM's article entitled The Spindle Tree from the Land and Water series published in the Irish Press of August 1936. KCM was the pen name of Kathleen Mackay, nature writer, field naturalist, botanist and ornithologist of Dunmore East, County Waterford. Kathleen wrote the daily nature column Land and Water for the Irish Press newspaper from its outset in September 1933 until March 1944. She produced approximately 4,500 articles under this pen name. As well as a talented writer, Kathleen was secretary of the Dunmore East Woods Committee and delivered a series of talks on the subject of bird life for Radio Athlone. However, her life was cut tragically short at the age of 59, several weeks after giving up the column due to failing eyesight. On the evening of 22nd of March 1944, Kathleen set out on her customary walk along the cliffs of Dunmore East, never to return. Her body was found 2 days later at the bottom of a cliff. The sergeant at the scene determined that some rocks had given way beneath her feet. However, I hope this is a fitting tribute to this wonderful nature writer. Thank you. Goodbye.
Hello, my name is Tehnuka and I'm joining you from Aotearoa, New Zealand. Here is my poem, Glowworms. Nestled in steep banks of a gully that smells of damp and mossy logs, from within fresh spun silk curtains studded with gleaming sticky droplets. They glow blue, among myriad blue glows like stars, never alone in the night. When hungry, they shine brightest. This is a trick I had not learned, to be most powerful when most in need. And this other poem is called Old Chestnuts. It was published in Native Skin. Fallen chestnuts lie brown and fuzzy in long grass, trampled, because the footpath is off limits. They're building a new playground. Gentle spiked like hedgehogs, both foreigners, brought to a land of birds and evergreen trees for a European taste of home. Careless feet crush prickly carapaces. Also like hedgehogs on the highway, their insides strewn careless, to be devoured roasted by a nutter picking amongst shells, or between fast tires, a harrier hawk or rat. Our bodies too are fragile, though here you can't see footage of mass graves and executions. Our bodies of foreigners sprouted from seeds of ancestors uprooted by the empire, others who survived violent oppression, replanted to this country from killing fields that you won't find on sanitized television or inside gleaming playgrounds. Here, they don't care where we come from, not exactly, only that we're brown, and news reports they saw about terrorism, and that we are models for good immigration. But their footsteps tread heavy. They continue construction, whether we stay in ruined lands or arrive displaced on long waves of colonization. They come to devour the soft parts,
like carrion. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this launch event. I'm very happy to be part of this issue of Channel. My name is Meghan Kemp, and I'm joining you today from the campus of the University of New Brunswick on the unceded territory of the Wolastoqiyik. But I grew up in British Columbia on the West Coast, and the two poems I'm reading today are inspired by two animals that are from the West Coast. They are the giant Pacific octopus and the Vancouver Island marmot. The giant Pacific octopus. If you're hungry for wisdom, write your proverbs in dead languages. They're dangerous in living mouths. If threatened, flee. If you can't run, hide your softness tight against sharp rock. When you can't hide, blend in. Make your hide lovely rippled sand and diamond-grained granite. If you can't blend in, draw blood. Write your riddles at right angles or with sensuous bonelessness. There is no happy medium. Wise men seeking advice from happy mediums should not expect to be happy themselves. The mindless mind their own business best. I mind mine by watching you. The Vancouver Island marmot. We will send out a lookout. We will send one of us, one of all 21 of us. One or two of us know a thing or two about how it is an island can be a lifeboat. A life can be a lifeboat too. And one of us can keep all of us afloat. All afloat, we will send one of us out to have a look. Thank you very much for having me.
My father stood once with his arms outstretched above his head and his hands turned up to heaven. The soles of my feet pressing into his palms as I stood above him, stood upon the scaffolding of him, to delicately cut free a length of dripping comb constructed by a rogue swarm of bees among the boughs of our black locust tree. I could not have been older than 12. Purple flowers, like full bunches of grapes, hanging all around me. It only took one cut. He lowered me with impossible ease to the ground, and I lowered the comb with impossible ease into a wooden salad bowl the size of a small bicycle's wheel. Then we set the bowl by an open fire bannering in the yard, until all the bees had been smoked out to more nectarous avenues. Throughout all, my mother watched, sitting on her knees by the fire. This was for her. It'd been her idea. Lift your son into a swarm. Come back with something good.
Hi, I'm Anna Reisens, coming to you from Barcelona, Spain, and this is Pantoum for the Woman in Red. When the moon becomes a silver bowl, the woman rises from the fallen leaves, her dress dangling like a red lantern. Only some of us can see her. The woman rises from the fallen leaves like a painted heron in the mist. Only some of us can see her. Granny says she's a smudge of memory, like a painted heron in the mist, a messenger sent from the trees. Granny says she's a smudge of memory from when we used to hear them speaking, a messenger sent from the trees. She's trying to tell us something from when we used to hear them speaking, and the earth was a full woman's body. She's trying to tell us something, her dress dangling like a red lantern. The earth was a full woman's body when the moon became a silver bowl. I'd like to thank the editors at Channel for all the work they do to bring our words to the world, and I hope you have a wonderful evening or day or whatever moment you are listening to this. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jamie O'Halloran, and I'm honored to have a poem in this issue of Channel, and that I get to participate in the launch from the distance of Connemara in the west of Ireland. Here's my poem, Cultivation. Emptiness appears at the blueberry farm this winter, where spent bushes have been dug up. Is this how it is with family? The last generation peters out, leaving compost-filled hollows, gaps among the rows of the still useful. This time of year, the bushes are bare. Their spare, spindly branches lift, palms up. And I'm going to read one more poem, and this is in the current issue of Cranach magazine, another lovely Irish journal of poetry and short fiction, and Cranach comes out of Galway. Natural history. In your shadow, I learn whitethorn and hear the spade slicing peat. Our sheds now stacked with the half-trailer's load of turf, so we'll be warm through winter. The gestures of death, snowdrops bowed head, guard of honor from church to graveside, create a passage tomb of reckoning, corridor where I will walk my grief at the prospect of breath's last casting, its shadow preserved in remembering's bog. Thank you again, Channel, for including my poem, and thank to all of you for listening.
Hello, I'm Andrea Scott, joining you from the unceded territory of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples, colonially known as Victoria, BC, Canada. Here's a poem included in issue 7. It was written after Jan's wiki. You must believe that Earth is a mother because of curves against hard edges and how she opens, yes, but also because she was the first face, first food, because she offers both footholds and flotation, because she leaves notes lying around that say wander, be still, and eat, as seen in tide tables, the farmer's almanac, church ladies' cookbooks, because in the refrains of the seasons, she also offers surprise, because hailstones, because nosebleeds, because sex with someone new, because a rat at the feeder meant for birds, because an orange canoe waiting for you at the shoreline, because she's got places for curling up when sick, for growing things just for beauty, for sorting soft from hard plastics, because with those plastics not sorted and which have drifted to the great Pacific garbage patch, she's made a raft for birds who've flown too long, because she gave you 3 babies, and at the same time you gave her 3 babies, sensing, breathing bodies in vernix with flossy hair, and because you thank each other often in warbling sopranos for the gifts. Here's one more poem, Let's Go Star Hunting. Our bodies are lights in the sky, riding from place to place. The view from space explains the bigness of mammal oddities, the song of the ocean, the really deep impact of a fly on a voyage, and how life on Earth changes. I see how easy it is looking back and remembering the shape of things, my bones, my navel, mother's body, and the last flower. I make believe the Earth can fix herself, and I'm not a baby, but did you know that we hold each other up, round and round, as lights in the sky, as planets orbiting the sun? I think help is coming. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Neil Hoskins and this is my poem Little Ears. But as I turned back home with such drama in mind, I was drawn to the huddle of people I saw on the edge of the forest, illuminated by fire, bright with drink and eating the shadows of horses and a wooden sleigh. I was so curious to join them and watch their mouths on such a freezing night. I wanted the sharp tang of their vodka on my breath. I watched them chew on the little ears, their odd voices echoing across the sky. They were calling out for more of them, the thin skin of dough, the rich mushroom flesh, and their words for little ears, Ushka. I heard a huge man called Giuseppe speaking as if he was a boy, weird rays of light around the hearth, distorting his family of faces on a table. They were squabbling for the last Ushka, of course, and racing round for the empty chair. I thought of our empty chair at home and how my mother would remind me that one must be set for Christmas, always for the stranger that might arrive from the cold, she said. A stranger in the house meant that God was in your house, she said. Tonight we are all welcome here with the old past of the forest, alive with those returning from churches to the bonfire. The ushka in the pan will be hot and fresh for everyone. Under crackling stars, the table set with 12 dishes. The hay in the small Hessian sack sits under the line of chairs. Laughter ricochets around the trees, and I stand here, my mouth smoking with cold vodka. And I see I am with my father in his few rooms, and in my weary eyes see the table, the blazing candles move with faint voices coming from the walls. I feel my brain push back to where my parents look over their own boy, laid out in the kitchen. They stand over me, and I am small, my little ears quiet now, in the middle of the night, in a dark wood, somewhere in the world. Thank you.
Hello, this is Padma Thornlyre, coming to you from the Rocky Mountains of the American Southwest, from Climax Canyon in northeastern New Mexico, just outside of the small town of Raton. I have, for the past year and a half, had the sublime pleasure of translating the works of Ukrainian poet Lyudmila Dyachenko. Her work is psychologically deep, it is intelligent, and it has all the haunting beauty that one expects from Ukrainian literature. She is absolutely magnificent. I hope you agree. Channel Magazine agreed to publish 4 of my translations of her poetry, and I am so pleased to be able to present them to you. Silence. The cranes do not bugle. This quiet aches beyond the hours. Pain is bitter and grits its teeth, running you over like a Kamaz truck. Death means becoming less than one person, irrevocably, abruptly. You're baptized, you have courage. Meanwhile, a meaningless sports broadcast announces a change in the football schedule. Death may happen to others, but still he approaches. He comes to remind you to open your hand, to wave at conversations melting where the yellow leaves rain. Wind is a painter as you are, but suddenly alone, you yourself become less than a person, adding nothing to anyone else. By way of a short explanation, there are a couple of references in this poem that are to Ukrainian colloquialisms not understood in English. To be barefoot indicates that he is little more than a hooligan, and to see from the grave means that what he sees is irrelevant to him. Passage to Carthage meant mastering the Punic tongue, a trifling sea, and a ferry whose self-taught captain knew little of the waves and swelter, the multitudes left behind. Barefoot, he saw Hellas and our voyage from the tomb. I swim impulsively. After all, you can't download adventures to an iPhone. And I never hoped to capture some Hannibal. Hot, my years on this earth, half covered by sand. Let them sleep, whom I call beloved, hidden deep within the continent. A monsoon will reveal through swollen sky and sea the abandoned Tsarina who burned herself for him, because of him, for him, who from her home had fled. I dreamed of snow blanketing Carthage. We fled to gather leaves falling in Paris. I wear sleep like Diogenes wore his beryl, and that whole pretentious dream was likewise bookish. Fireflies extinguish their lanterns. A scarf around my neck and my soul inside a sweater is my reality before winter. The once beguiling ocean leaves no trace, and we do not return, echoing the fading dream that taps its cane ominously, but no longer intrudes. To love, spread yourself into the cosmos, reflecting within yourself all names. Wow, those last 2 lines always send a chill through me. They feel as though they were written by Walt Whitman. What name had the galley? And who creased the oars, took waves upon baked shoulders, seaweed between his teeth? Your GPS navigator plowed the way, stalking the heels of strangers. That is, the compass sank and pulled you under by the forehead. Dive in October, climb gently back up to the deck. Ask the sea directly, which ocean will devour us? And without curiosity or apparent fright, sketch a map to nowhere, like a thief charts his plan. A pair of skilled hands snatches a fish cake. We know by the bite whether Sem, Tigris, or Pontus. So a man glances forward, past soul and flesh, to a single horizon. 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 Thank you for listening. I love it here. The loudest thing I hear is the ringing in my ears. Thank you, Channel Magazine. Thank you, Cassia. Thank you, Ireland. Adios.
This is Ahimsa Timoteo Bodhran reading Prominence. The way your body fills my palm and I touch the face of God. Searing my fingers catch flame of you, lightning through sky, tears in the membrane of night, releasing me to sleep in your corona. It is here above the waves that would drown us that I beach upon your pearls, sand gritted against teeth, rising. Here we make worship in dunes of memory and dust. Here amidst shells and passage. Here amidst dead and dying. Here, there, and touch again the rupture of face and fist, healed against your palm, carried forth on breath of winds, and carried forth evermore. Spirals down until we arrive, and I kiss the cold between your fingers.
Hello, I'm Joanna Guthrie, and I'm going to read 2 poems. Arctic ice wakes up as liquid. Bashful, brimful with all sorts of secrets and unreadable torrents of bliss come from somewhere. I'm setting out from my harbour. I'm issuing from whole chunk of a cliff of ice, rinsing and ridding itself now of me. Or I am the rinse, rinsing, twisting and still issuing, with old water not seen round here very lately. Emerging, blinking, the surround sound of the place. Not able to stop, I issue forth, busy as the rest of them, after my long dormancy in a sessile enclosure, that hive of particles. We fell away in tears and clumpings, and what is that bucket for? To catch sea change in drips. I'm flowing, filling across the reach, not shivering, not cleaving, not separate, not carving, not vertical. Now I'm urgent, gushing, and I find I cannot speak of the white blue land I was, though I'm leaving a faint trail. And my asthma, ice scurf, a nebula crossing over. Who woke me to this? Who set me to this job? I am not needed. Estuary. Equinox. 2 halves, This spill is wonderful and wallowing in itself, puddly, brackish, slightly sexy, shallow deep, a smell of warming damp like an airing cupboard, a smell of yeast and ferrous honey, weeds thinking about rotting, their eggy ruin a high roll on the nostrils, 1 part smoke, seeds roasting as if in an oven, slew of curlew, quick crow, 1 core burst then off. Leaning out to pick blackberries, I notice I'm knee-deep in a scene from a near future where we're eating ants. Cooked, I don't know how. Griddled, served in a Tupperware box, a shoal of black fryings scooped out with our long nails. I'm picturing us all back at our parents' house, sheltering. I'm wondering if we would joke as we ate. Would there be jokes rising to the surface? Would there be a little protein high? I hope we'd still laugh there, despite. I stand half in, half out of this idea, testing my feet. The water bird upends herself so quick away from her reflection into the other underneath, like slicing a mirror open, and the other half escaping in front of me. Thanks very much for having me, Channel Magazine, and sorry not to be there.
Hi, my name's Jared Byrne. I'm here in Sligo and it's a beautiful sunny day. The weather isn't so good in the story I'm going to read from. The setting happens during Hurricane Rita, and Bianca and Theo are hunkered down in a motel room and they want to witness the eye of the storm. This is towards the end, when the real question is not so much will they survive the hurricane, but will their relationship survive. Theo brought the loungers indoors and set them up back from the window where they could see out. They put on the swimwear they had bought for the occasion. Bianca put on her red polka dot bikini and Theo put on his blue Hawaiian swimming shorts. They mixed cocktails and filled plastic bowls with chips, microwave popcorn and an assortment of candies. Then they sat in their loungers sipping from tall glasses of the paper cocktail umbrellas, staring out at the raging ocean. The palm trees bent low against the persistent gale as though they might snap at any moment. Newspapers in plastic bags swirled past the window. At one point, Bianca saw a hubcap spinning along the sand, and later the lid of a trash can. "When shall we pull the shutters down?" she asked, drinking from her Life's a Beach signature cocktail. "Don't worry, we'll know when," Theo replied. "What if we don't and we leave it too late and the window comes crashing in, the hurricane fills the room and sucks everything from it, including you and I?" Just as she finished saying this, a loud hissing came through as the wind gushed in under the motel roof. The siding shook and the doors and windows rattled. Theo grinned at her. "It's holding fine." He got up to mix them each another drink. "It's only 1:30, Bianca warned. Theo poured and stirred the drinks. "The fun is yet to come." "My mother was killed in a storm gentler than this," Bianca said when he came to hand her the drink. Theo faltered. He held the drink out to her. "No, Bianca, she wasn't. A tree fell on her." Theo went back for his own drink. "She was hunkered down in the basement and the whole of her house above her was blown away, leaving her exposed to the winds. She was never seen again." "That didn't happen." Theo sat back down into his lounger. "She got caught in the storm driving home. The wind gusted against the side of it, and she lost control and drove over the edge of the road into a steep incline. The flames could be seen for miles." "Bianca." Bianca reached for a handful of popcorn. Through the window, Theo saw a wave rise up 15 feet or more. It seemed to hold itself aloft in suspension as though taking a breath. Then it crashed heavily and sped its tumultuous way up the beach, reaching towards them before retreating. Bianca swirled her drink in a glass like a whirlwind. She sat upright suddenly. "What was that?" "What?" Theo hadn't noticed anything. "I don't know. Something happened." "Like what?" Bianca shivered. Her skin came out in goosebumps all over. "Like something stopped. Like someone died." Theo sat up and looked around and listened. The clock light in the stove had gone out and he could no longer hear the hum of the fridge. He stood up and tried the light switch on the wall next to the window. The light did not turn on. It's just the power, he said. We're prepared for that. We have the gas stove, candles, matches, everything we need. The wind seemed to grow stronger and louder as he spoke. The sky darkened. Thanks.
You tell me that summer is not as swift as I think. It has dandelions where grass should have been. Why didn't we eat them as they do in Greece? Why didn't we spend each night at the taverna tossing plates before a dancer's feet? The moon reeled on such nights, so much that your thoughts became bilingual, and each whitecap were the name of a country you hoped to visit. How many years can you hope to visit? Now you are as old as a sailor who didn't come home and went from port to port looking for a new life. The sea spit him up. The dark wrote him off. Sails fluttered like birds, actually became birds. He thought he was a bird. Such stories were born of music. Its timbre clicked on shore. The dock held your first footsteps with a memory of land until gravity bore you again. Don't look back. The ferry may tilt too far after the trucks have left its steerage. It may seem so empty even the gulls have found somewhere else to go. The land keeps its rhythms too. When they meet the seas, they fold into one another like familiar dancers. The gulls know both and dip into the nearest feast. They circle your comings and goings. They know there is no rest when the surf is up and the sea roughens. Little lover of the lost second, when will you tie your kerchief tighter? When will the sunlight give to the shade its gleam? There are thousands of partners to know, but who wants that many? Their faces would lose their features, and their arms would feel like the seas without any fishing boats. Each night the fisherman's wife leaves the curtain up. Each morning the women meet the fisherman for the day's catch, his muscular arms like rippling waves hauling their fish. Why do they all know summer has lost its way? It's not that it's not as swift as spring. It's just that there are so many tourists. The sea is crowded. The land is crowded. The earth is tongue-tied. The tourists do not move in the sun and resemble fish. They burn. You want to give them something, but they give you money. They have a different value for money. Here, money is a fig, or barbunia. It's lamb on the spit for Christ. Please give us some homemade wine and sweets on a plate you have carefully placed on the stone supporting the tree. Into the mountains. At first the olive trees bow in the sunlight, and then wave to us as we pass. We rise into turns that test the will to adhere to the road. Rocks jut into fields of summer grass, and a stray goat nibbles the brown stubbles of land, lifting itself as the road continues where spring is interrupted by rock. Women walk with water jugs, and tourists who have never drunk island water stand with wet mouths, their lips glistening. A flurry of cars stops. The road hairpins into altitude. I do not think for long of the stone that falls down the mountain's side, or the automobile that may have missed the guardrail. Candle boxes are lit. Like icons, they spot the roadway. Fresh-cut flowers reminding us of our insistence on life. The slippery mix of stones is summer's asphalt, asphalt a luxury. Crushed stone shines like the guardrails as we turn away from the pinnacle of the ascent that leaves no moment to stray. Shears of rock, reminders of depth and velocity and intention. I do not breathe steadily again until we reach the salt beds and the flat stretch of island road that luxuriates along the center of earth, just before we rise again into forest of pine and clean, fragrant air.
My name is Stephanie Kirby, and I'm joining you from the Front Range of the Colorado Rocky Mountains. Thank you for being here and for listening. My gratitude as well to the editors for including me alongside so many inspiring artists in Channel. Today, I'll be reading from my poem from issue 7, Shifting Weight. The first sign there's a snake in your closet is an open door and a snake, or at least a coil of its most recent skin. To shed this kind of weight is a revelation. Other things live here. Likely a hornet tending nest in a set of nearby lungs, which displaces the pounds of plastic gathered there. Plastic, the next best material, bends and yields. Inflammation presents as a localized condition. Flames crawl the upper ridge. The temperature drops 19 degrees in 3 minutes on the eastern plains, rises again before sundown. The eyes know pollution enhances the sunset, a necessary friction felt in the bones. Thunderheads produce hailstones the size of small fists. To sculpt with stones, someone's kidneys must first surrender and refuse them. The average squirrel tail weighs half a pound, more in winter, less when detached. I find a quarter tail in the yard, heavy for late spring and its bloodlessness. Can I hold this weight, make this lighter in my sinking hands?
Hello, I'm Claire Booker and I'm really happy to be in this issue. It's a wonderful magazine and thank you so much to Elizabeth and Cassia and Dorje for actually taking one of my poems, and I'm going to start with that poem and it's called Islay. The ferry reels me back through slow mist. Cloud pall mimes the island I can't yet see. Church bells keening in the nowhere. I send my raven up looking for you. The years rise, sway, crest and fall on the sea's pendulum. Your face, that last time, along the jetty. Impetuous pebble, skipping heavy water towards me. And I'll read one more poem, which is from my new collection called A Pocket Full of Chalk from Eagney Press. And I live on the South Downs in the south of England, so I'm going to take you up there with this next poem, and it's sort of almost getting to sunset and the shadows, the winter shadows are getting very long. There's a windmill, an old windmill up on the top of Beacon Hill. Looking towards Smock Mill. Evening shadows make monsters of sheep. Even a crow has its life stretched. The sun raises me up like a beanstalk, sends my head grazing on the slope opposite. Here, beside the witch tree's propped stones, I'm transcribed by light and elevation. My flint bones and wormy flesh breathe effortlessly across chalk and tilth. My sister the smock mill looks out to sea with her dark arms flung. I'm stilt woman, giantess of the hill. If I turn, I'll vanish. I could peel my whole length, roll me under my arm as a keepsake. Never before have I covered so much ground. I let myself float in the beaks of birds. Thank you for listening. I'm really looking forward to reading the issue and to hearing everyone read their poems who can. And good luck with the launch in Dublin. I'll be there in spirit. And thank you so much to everyone.
Hey there, my name is Nikki Elmo and I'm a poet in New Orleans, Louisiana. Thank you for tuning in to the virtual launch of the newest issue of Channel. It means the world to have you here with us. I have 2 poems for you today. The first poem is called An Offering. On Sundays, in the backyard, as the sun slurps sky, you slash a papaya in 2, and always the bigger piece for me. You let me be greedy. This, my religion, the corner of your mouth, the yellow flesh you miss, your full face in fruit bowl, tongue licking the sides green, juice trickling your chin. I lick you long, stretch a trail from temple to temple, where I leave a crown of flaxen spit. Later, when our smiles are stringy, we FaceTime your mom, and she chides us about the pulp she spots between our teeth. As I speak, your tongue slips between the crease of your lips like pilgrim hands in holy books searching for the perfect words to glory this moment. The pink in me purrs long and listens, your golden smile, an offer of the last lick. I raise my sticky palms and sing your praises. The next poem I have for you today is called Fragments from Quarantine. 1. The house boomed me awake, a quake in the hands of a construction crew. 2. Outside my bedroom, the sky turned sideways, took flight while a dove perched upon the foreman's finger pointed at the concrete mixer. 3. A statue in my living room, I watch houses spring like daisies from the damp dirt. 4. Blue, so much wet blue it drips from bruised sky, from the shingles. 5. Every one of us borrowed from heaven. 6. Solitude rots my mouth as the neighbor boys press their ears to my cage. 7. But son, I will not pucker for you. 8. I bottled love for years. It shivers when held straight. The light shines straight through it. 9. Don't mean to be selfish. Don't mean to be... Fuck. Forgive me, Father, for I have tongue to the doorknobs in search of touch. Thank you all again for being here. My name is Nikki Amo. Continue to check out all the good work that Channel is doing.
Hi everyone, I'm delighted to be here for the issue 7 launch, and thanks a million to Lizzie and Cassie and Dorje, but for selecting the work and for all the hard work that goes into producing such a fine magazine. So I'm going to be reading the poem that I have in issue 7, and it's called Letters to Self. 1. Realization. Rain veined on a window, imagined into rivers with estuaries. This is how a child's loneliness travels through my blood, naming things and counting, currents on a lake, a quiet enumeration, moved by warmth and warmth forever moving to the rhythm of the wind, loneliness now sheeped to sleep. 2. Wish. Windmills, white three-armed giants, seeming sentries all in solemn rows, their hearts not in the sentry business, their arc even-paced and slow, humming, hearing. This is what I want, the constant grace of a life that listens, that I might reach my arms to harvest breath and still reach to another yet. Thank you.
How to rock and roll with God. What is the joy of moonlight glazed grass untouched by bare toes, or scents of roses without the lingering nose of a shabby sweatered passerby? Knowing the adenine and thymine of your DNA are in that eucalyptus tree may urge you to feel its circumference. Go ahead, no one's looking, and with your arms take measure before its immigrant kind are felled from that native plant's preserve. If you forgot the way to move to the tune of rain, tilt up your face, eyes closed, imagined feathers sleeked, and let ribbons of water slide over the slopes of your body, or open your mouth like an African drought-shrunk lake refilling. Go low to the secret spore dwellings in gills of mushrooms, under fronds of bracken and flanges of pine cones, their hidden escapes for survival revealed to you who don't need to leave home to thrive. You can't rock and roll with God, he said, so little Richard threw his diamonds in the river. And oh, the sunlit glitter, the scintillation of what flows within over half of you.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us for tonight's event. It's such a pleasure to continue doing these online launches and to have the opportunity to hear from contributors both near and far put breath directly into their work. So we really appreciate you all for both sending in your videos if you're contributors and also for being here to support those contributors, whether you're friends, family, readers of the magazine, or just stumbled upon this event. We are so grateful for you. We also have to extend a massive thank you to the Arts Council for continuing to support our work, as well as to our patrons whose financial support both buoys up our material and spiritual contributions to channel ourselves. Those are Hojat and Dazari, Hannah Gaden Gilmartin, Ed Madden, Sarah Nishikawa, Elisa Spindler, and Denise Wilson, alongside those patrons who wish not to be named. If you are interested in submitting to channel, issue 8 submissions are currently open and will remain open until December 15th. In the meantime, if you would like to get yourself a copy of channel issue 7, you can check our stockists online. There will be a link to that in the description box below. If you are purchasing from within Ireland, and if you would like to order a copy of yours for yourself, either within Ireland or internationally, you can do so online in our online shop. Okay, that's it for now. Except if you do want to also sign up to our newsletter, you can do that as well. There'll be a link to that below. That way you can stay up to date on all channel related things. Now that really is it. I'll let you go for the evening, and thank you all again. It's been an absolute pleasure. Good night.